wanted to do another book review. This one just because it's fresh on my mind. Diary of a CEO. Shout out to that podcast. You know who he is. Book Diary of a CEO. More in the masculine space, more in the doing space, and I think that's even why I put it down. I would evaluate this book as literally a masterful compilation of stories which a journal or diary of a CEO would hold. And so these laws of business, as he states it in the book, chapter for chapter, talk to really great stories and principles that highlight that, and filtered specifically through his own and other executive experiences and literally profound differences that these laws have made in business. You know, a few that I'll refer to that are just recently passed, he was talking about an experiment which I never knew about, especially being a gearhead. I found interesting. Toyota, the auto manufacturer, has a concept that they put to the test that became globally recognized as a standard. But the whole context is that small things, every small thing matters, the small details. How this story plays out is talking about back in the late 80s, early 90s, GMC, Chevy, Cadillac, the brand, Buick, GM auto manufacturing had a plant in America that was doing craptacular. And if you know anything, Toyota's standard for constant cycles of development, improvement, again, focusing on the small things, has had emphasis and stellar productivity, efficiency, innovation, to the degree where every executive, even down to the janitor, is enrolled, engaged, and part of the process of making what they do better. And so they tell a story where because of that, they have so much better stats of performance, efficiency, effectiveness. And they decide to experiment because a GM plant, and while they've had decades of being a leading manufacturer, in the late 80s, early 90s, Toyota was doing magnanimously better. And GM closed the plant. The conditions were so bad as they described, they had to hire a team and staff to clean the employee parking lot from drugs and paraphernalia and alcohol, because that's what they were using to cope and compensate. They had to have 8% because of sick rate, have temporary or substitute employees ready for people to just be on leave, not be available at any given time, every day, just to function. So these are some of the stats. 12 errors or incidents for every vehicle constructed at a slower construction time off of the factory line. They didn't experiment with Toyota. After they closed down a factory, laid off and sent home everyone, Toyota made an arrangement. We will put forth funds and resources. We will fly out, we'll rehire everyone you let go, make it available. They hired back 90% of the laid off staff. They flew out executives and team leaders, spent $3 million to educate them in this Inogen, whatever the phrase is, methodology over in Japan. Through this, opened up constructive criticism, getting that whole ecosystem where everyone contributes to what can help by putting advocates in place that would work with them to make their complaints, suggestions actually possible, doable, and then work with them to get them submitted and implemented. So now suggestions contributing to productivity from all members of crew, staff, employees, all up and down the org chart were happening. They reduced from 14 levels of management to just 3 categories: executive leadership, team leadership, and I think member leaders kind of thing. But all these improvements constituted to 1 error per vehicle, from 12 to 1. 90% of the employees came back in. Within 1 to 2 years, they did a complete flip around with all these stats: improvement, productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, rehiring, and in the plant they were making 2 vehicles, the GM, I think Cavalier or some base level vehicle at that time, and a Toyota, maybe Corolla, whatever, just making it up, right? But they made these 2 efficient, economical vehicles to be produced there, one for Toyota, one for GM, and the experiment was, could they change everything? So with the same building, the same staff, within 2 years, they basically flipped the business upside down. People were contributing ideas, 90% of the ideas were being applied. They only needed 3%, not 3 people per shift, where they needed 8 people standing by every day just to make up for the sick leave. Only 3% of employees did not show up anymore accurately for work. People were producing and making less errors in the same location, in the same building, with the same tools, with the same equipment, and the same staff under these new principles and philosophies. So that's an example of, in this book, sharing great stories, principles, philosophies, everything down to the first 3 seconds of your YouTube videos, content, grabbing someone's attention, hooking them, principles on marketing. So all these important business principles and structures detailed out from a context of a diary of a CEO. And it's just really great, like literally those 2 snippets, how you do anything, paying attention to details, and then hooking your client, giving them the most valuable information straight out up front, how Mr. Beast does it, how his business has done it, Diary of a CEO author. And it's something, literally, it's in my checklist for content because it makes sense, it's what's needed. But so it's a really great book full of great masculine, like active, performing, doing exercises and activities told through good storytelling. And these laws of business are tried and true on so many levels, and really makes sense. So, I mean, I give it 2 thumbs up. It's a great experience. Obviously, just like his podcast, he asks good questions, and he demonstrates even where inside of his podcast, his business that he runs there, their principle is over-analyzing everything, because all of the small things add up to big, monumental change. I am complete.